And it quickly became clear that I just wanted to practice Krishna consciousness as a full-time occupation. So then moved to New Mayapur, France, farm community in France, where I've been living for the last 7 years, doing different types of services. And having married an American devotee, Shantama, we're now visiting the US to visit his mom, and we thought we'd take the opportunity to come to the Bhakti Center because it's a very enlivening place to be. I'm very glad to be with all of you and to have this opportunity to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly the 11th canto. I find it a very exciting canto. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 3, entitled Liberation from the Illusory Energy. And this is text number 34. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
And so text 34. Shri Raja Vacha Narayana Vidanasya Brahmana Paramatmana Nishtam Marata Yuno Vaktum Yuyam He Brahmavitamaha. Shri Raja Vacha Narayana Vidanasya Brahmana Paramatmana Nishtam Marata Yuno Vaktum Yuyam Hi Brahmavitamaha. Word for word translation. Shri Raja Uvacha, the king said, Narayana Abhidanasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, named Narayan. Brahmanaha, of the Absolute Truth. Parama Atmanaha, of the Supersoul. Nishtam, the transcendental situation. Arata, you may kindly. Naha, to us. Vaktum, speak. Yuyam, all of you. He, indeed. Brahmavitamaha, the most expert knowers of the Supreme. Translation and purport by the humble servants of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. King Nimi inquired, please explain to me the transcendental situation of the Supreme Lord Narayan, who is himself the absolute truth and the supersoul of everyone. You can explain this to me because you are all most expert in transcendental knowledge. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, in the previous verse, the sages informed the king, Narayana Paro Mayam Anjastarati Dushtaram. Simply by unalloyed devotion to Lord Narayan, one can very easily cross over the ocean of material illusion. Therefore, in this verse, the king is requesting specific information about the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. It is significant in this verse that the king refers to the Supreme Lord as Narayan, Brahman, and Paramatma. Although King Nimi is already understood to be a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his question he wants to clarify that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest transcendental truth. In the Bhagavatam 1-11, Vedanti tat tattva vedas tattvam yadjnanamadvayam brahmiti paramatmiti bhagavan iti shabdate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Therefore, it is to be understood that the word Narayan in this verse refers to the Bhagavan feature of the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. Generally, the speculative philosophers become attracted to the impersonal Brahman feature of the Absolute Truth, whereas the mystic yogis meditate upon the Paramatma, the Supersoul within everyone's heart. On the other hand, those who have achieved mature transcendental knowledge surrender directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, who is eternally situated in his own abode called Vaikuntha Dham. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna clearly says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. I am the source of the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, it is described in Srimad Bhagavatam that the Supersoul, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, is a secondary plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. King Nimi wants the sages to make clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original feature of the Absolute Truth, and therefore he places his question before the next of the 9 Yogendras, Pipalayana. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, the word nishta can also be translated as firm faith. In this sense, Nimi Maharaj is inquiring about the process of developing perfect faith in the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan Nishta. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Adati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Shri Vishakam Vaitam Sagadutam Vaijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhana Sute Devi Pranamani Haripriye Shakapataruvyascha Vipasindhu Devacha Vitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, King Nimi is having a conversation with the 9 Yogendras, 9 sages, and Nimi Maharaj is presenting various questions to the Yogendras, and each in turn, they are each answering his questions with a few verses each. And I just thought for some context, it's interesting to maybe go back a bit to understand the progression of his questions and come up to the question that he's asking here today. So Maharaj Nimi's initial question was to understand what is the greatest good for humanity, what is the most beneficial activity, and how to engage in that activity, how to practice that activity for the greatest good of ourselves and everyone. And the first Yogendra to answer is Kavi, and he explains that the highest good is the performance of devotional service. And through that devotional service to surrender everything to the Lord, offer everything to Him. Specifically chanting the holy names also, he mentions that. And so Kavi will give a lot of detail in how to practice devotional service through the different verses he speaks to Maharaj Nimi. So after having received the answer to this first question, Maharaj Nimi then has a second question. And he said, oh, so devotional service is the highest good. So please tell me about those people who are practicing devotional service. Please tell me about the devotees. How would I recognize them? How can I differentiate the different types of devotees? What are their qualities? What are their characteristics? Trying to understand what devotees are and what is so special about them, about those people who are practicing devotional service. And then the second of Yogendra who answers is Havir, and he then describes specifically the three levels of devotees, like Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari, and gives a lot of detail how to recognize them. And he ends on the Uttama Adhikari and how glorious that personality is, who has completely submitted everything to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how glorious it is to aspire to serve such a personality through our devotional service. Then King Nami's third question is he wants to know about the illusory energy. He wants to know what this illusory potency is. Try to understand what it's all about, how it conquers the living entities, how it entangles them and entraps them in material energy. And so then Antariksha, Yogendra, replies that basically illusory energy all begins when we cultivate the desire for sense gratification. And we misidentify ourselves with the material body. And then because of that identification, because of this aspiration for sense gratification, we then become entangled in the material energy, which puts myself in the center, takes God out of the center, puts my senses, my pleasure in the center. And the result of that is misery and helplessness. Then the conditioned entity is just completely under illusion, in ignorance, and just suffers the repeated cycle of birth and death. So then Maharaj Nimi has a very intelligent question, which we also ask ourselves. If this energy is so powerful, how can us foolish living entities, how can we get out of it? How can we cross over this ocean of nescience that we have fallen into? And it's interesting how Prabhupada then replies. He kind of explains, first of all, how it's like an analysis of, okay, we get into illusion, we get under the influence of the illusory energy because we're seeking sense gratification, for material sense gratification. And so Prabhupada answers first that, we have to understand there is no pleasure in sex life. There is no pleasure in acquiring wealth. There is no pleasure in going to the heavenly planets, because all of these things give such temporary flickering pleasure to the senses and the mind, but they're all temporary and they all just keep us in illusion and this miserable condition. So that was the first step, is first understand the reality of what your great hopes in the material energy have brought to you. And then he says that actually to really overcome this illusion, you have to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, and you should consider him as your worshipable deity and make him the center of your life, of your decisions. Learn to serve him, learn to hear from him, try to be a disciple who has no duplicity, who is faithful, who is favorable, And if you develop such an attitude toward a bona fide spiritual master, the Lord, who is the omniscient witness, who sees everything, hears everything, all our thoughts, all our actions, all our aspirations, when he sees this kind of attitude, he becomes pleased, and then he reveals himself, and he Krishna Sirasa Maya Maya Andakar Yan Krishna Tahanai Maya Adhikar. Wherever there is the sun, there can be no darkness. So when the Lord reveals himself, there is no place for the illusory energy. Yeah. And just in regards to that, actually yesterday, when I was searching for the verse for the class today, somehow I mistyped the number. And I ended up on another verse, which is actually very interesting and very relevant to this question of Maharaj Nimi. So it's from the first canto. So instead of typing 11.334, I typed 1.334. So anyway, this is 1.334. And it says that when the illusory energy subsides by the grace of the Lord, by the revelation of the Lord, the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge and enlightened with self-realization, and then becomes situated in his own glory. It's a very beautiful verse, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada really emphasizes this point, is that we actually cannot come out of this illusory energy. It's the grace of God alone, because of, if he is satisfied with our attitudes, the spiritual master satisfied with our efforts, then by his grace, he is the sun, the ultimate sun. And when he manifests himself within the heart, all illusion is dissipated, all misery is dissipated, all ignorance is dissipated naturally, without any separate endeavor, actually, to remove darkness. Krishna removes that darkness, but it is his power alone. Srila Prabhupada in the purport explains that all Parasya Shakti and Vivadaiva Shriyate, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has many different types of energies, the internal energy, external energy, marginal energy. But just like an electrician can use electricity to produce either heat or cold, the Supreme Lord can also use any of his energies and transform them according to his desire. And so, even though living entity, we are marginal energy, and we are under the influence at the moment of the external energy. But for Krishna, it's not very difficult to just convert this external energy into internal energy. Mahatmanas tamam prata daivim prakritim ashritaha. Great souls take shelter of this internal energy. But this shelter in the internal energy is given by the grace of the Lord. So this is an important aspect in regards to Maharaj Nimi's questions, that how on earth do we get out of this condition we've put ourselves in? And so, in summary, Prabhu's answer is you have to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the intermediary of the spiritual master, and ultimately just repose everything in Krishna. So then Maharaj Nimi's fifth question, which we're reading today, he's been listening to all the answers that he's been getting to his questions, and so the whole situation we're in can easily be resolved by devotional service to Narayan. And Maharaj Nimi has just heard about how potent this illusory energy is, how it entangles the soul in more and more intricate complexities, and just how all-pervading it is in the material existence. And he's just been told that simply worship Narayan and all of this will be resolved. So naturally, Maharaj Nimi is thinking, okay, well, who is this person? Who is this person that simply by worshipping him, all of this can be removed, all this illusion can be removed? How is it possible for me to put my firm faith and conviction? I have to understand more who this personality is. Like at the end of the purport, today's purport, it says the word nishta can also be translated as firm faith. So Nimi Maharaj is inquiring about the process of developing perfect faith in the Supreme Lord. So it's a natural question, and we see that even sometimes we discuss Krishna consciousness with newcomers, even devotees. We're all asking these questions at different moments, maybe in different ways, different levels. But still, it's important to understand the position of Krishna, the position of the Supreme Lord, because we are being asked to put every single ounce of our faith, of our hopes, of our aspirations, of our life, air, everything, to give to Him. So, even though faith and trust in God is the most natural thing for the soul, we have spent so many millions of lifetimes putting our faith in everything else, in our material bodies and our senses and other people and the material energy and so many things, that now we have to redirect this faith back to the only person who is worthy of this faith and trust, which is God. And so because we are because at the moment our faith is placed in so many other ways, in so many other places, and we have a lot of trust in the material energy, it's necessary to be reminded of the glory of the Lord in order to be convinced that, okay, I will place all my faith and hope in Him then. So here, Pipalayana is going to explain many verses, the greatness of the personality of Godhead, the power, the nature, different transcendental qualities that He has in quite a lot of detail, technical detail. And because we have, I was remembering a class that Keshava Maharaj gave, and he gave a very interesting illustration for this process of placing your faith back at the lotus feet of the Lord. And he got two devotees to stand up in front of everybody in the class. And one of them was turning his back to the other. And he told the one in front that now you fall back and this other devotee behind you will catch you. And so depending on who's doing this exercise, there's different reactions. Some of them just fall back immediately and the other devotee catches them. Some turn back to the speaker and kind of, are you sure about this? I don't know if this is a good idea. So you see all these different reactions. And he was using this to illustrate that there's actually three things that you need to know in order to be able to do this, to fall back into the arms of Supreme Personality of Godhead, having turned your back on Him and not really seeing Him anymore. And those three things he said is, first of all, you have to know that He's there, that He's actually there. So, that He's there, that He exists, and that He's right there, standing behind you. The second point is that you know that He has the ability to catch you, that He has the strength, that He has, He's close enough, and that He's actually capable of holding you. And the third thing you need to know is that He is your well-wisher and He wants to catch you. Because even if somebody's there, they have the strength to catch you, but they want to play a joke on you, or they're not actually a well-wisher, they might not catch you. So you have to know these three things. You have to be convinced of these three things in order to surrender, to place that faith, to place your heart back at the lotus feet of the Lord. And so this is what is going on throughout the scriptures, throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have this process of submissive inquiry. So many different personalities are approaching a learned person that may be their spiritual master or a great sage that they meet along the way. And they're submissively inquiring about the qualities of the Lord, about the pastimes of his devotees, about his nature, about his potencies, so many different aspects of the Lord. All of this helps us to gain conviction in these three things, that yes, the Lord is there. He can hold you. He can give you that shelter that you're looking for, and he wants you. He is your ultimate well-wisher, your eternal friend, the person who loves you the most, who cares for you the most, who is just waiting for you to come back to him. And so from hearing the scriptures, hearing these inquiries like Maharaj Nimi's conversation with the Yogendras, we're gaining all this information and conviction through reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We develop this conviction, we develop this faith. And, because all these great spiritual authorities are promising, are confirming, explaining, keep telling us so much about this person that we have forgotten, about Krishna. And just by hearing like this, we can also develop this faith. And the more faith we have, the more we'll be willing to take a step into maybe some unknown territory. We'll be willing. There's this quote I used to like when I was at school: leap and the net will appear. So sometimes we would like to know before we take the step. It's called a leap of faith. There's this, it's a common saying, but it's very relevant because it means faith means you take a step into the unknown because you trust the Lord. And that is what builds faith, that constitutes faith and builds faith as well. So the more we read like this, the more we try to hear, try to understand, and also aspire like Maharaj Nimi to develop this perfect faith in the Supreme Lord, the more we will be taking steps towards that. And the more we take steps, the more we demonstrate our faith. Faith is not just a sentiment. Faith has to be demonstrated in everyday life. It's not just something theoretical. And so, the more steps we will take in this direction, the more our faith will strengthen and develop like that. So this, I was reading it yesterday, actually. I've started reading Srimad Bhagavatam again, so I'm in the first canto. And in a purport, Srila Prabhupada is giving a very interesting point. Said that you can't get realization simply by reading. You also have to hear and then explain to others. So this process of discussing Krishna consciousness is essential to get realization. And ultimately this faith and realization comes by the grace of Krishna within the heart. So even though we are trying to understand, we read the scriptures, we try to understand the philosophy, we try to understand who is the Lord, we try to understand all these things. But ultimately it's not our efforts that will give that transformation in the heart. It's Krishna who's seeing the eagerness with which we're trying to approach him, trying to come back to him. Then he will reciprocate and give us that understanding within our heart. And there's in the 10th canto, just after the Brahma Vimohan Lila, there's chapter 14 is the prayers of Lord Brahma. And there's one thing he says that really struck me, because Lord Brahma was trying to understand who Krishna is, who this little boy is, who is he, what is he all about, what is really his potency. But then after all this pastime, Lord Brahma comes to the conclusion when he's praying is that it's impossible to understand you. Nobody can understand you. And actually we shouldn't aspire to understand you. We should aspire to love you. So that is the point. So all this information that we're being given about Krishna is not to get a complete understanding of him, and then we can surrender. We cannot completely understand him, and the goal is not to understand him. The goal is to love him, to develop that love and that connection with him again. And so we focus on that. So whatever I need to know, just enough to at least aspire to love him, aspire to reconnect with him. And so it is Krishna who gives that grace, who gives those aspirations actually through the process of submissive inquiry. We have this, I'll just finish on this is very important verse, Bhagavad Gita. Tadviri paripratena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshina. So like one of the answers Maharaj Nimi got earlier, that the way forwards is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, to serve him, inquire submissively, and he can reveal the truth to you because he has seen the truth. So this process of submissive inquiry with service, with the proper attitude, Krishna reciprocates with that through the spiritual master, and such magic can occur in those interactions. Like we see the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is just this verse. Because that is where the magic happens. It's not magic, but it feels magic sometimes, mystical. That just if you have this genuine desire to hear, and apply what you hear in your life, and with great eagerness and great need, we inquire like Maharaj Nimi is inquiring. The Lord is so pleased with that attitude and that humility before his representative, the spiritual master, that he then manifests himself within the heart. He gives realization, and he gives this firm faith in himself. So that is a gift of God. It's a gift of God to have faith, and it's a gift of God to aspire to meet him again, aspire to love him. Okay, I'll stop there. Leave some time for questions. If anybody has any comments, questions, or corrections, it'd be very nice to hear from all of you.
Hare Krishna, Citra, Lila, Devi. Wonderful class. Thank you. I have a question regarding this leap of faith. Does Krishna have fun doing this to us? Making us fall without telling us if we'll be caught?
Does Krishna have fun? I'm not really in any position to understand the mind of Krishna when he does different things, and I'm sure because we're all unique individuals, he has a unique relationship and unique approach to all of us. But so maybe he does have fun with some, I don't know, but he's in whatever spirit he's doing it, it's always out of compassion and giving us the opportunity to make a decision, make a choice, develop an attitude or an emotion based on the situation. And he'll only be able to see that if there's this kind of not empty space, but open space that is so it's a space of uncertainty for us. And sometimes, actually the other day, when one girl was asking me, I'm asking Krishna for an answer, and he's not telling me anything. I'm not hearing his answer. I don't know what to do. And sometimes we're very attached to knowing, okay, we want to know what the plan of God is or what it is he wants us to do. But actually, he doesn't always reveal that immediately, because of what he wants to see is this faith, and this trust in him, that even if I don't understand what this is all about, and I don't know what it is that you want me to do, I trust you, and I give it back to you. I put it in your hands. And it's actually not the outcome of the decision necessarily that he's looking at, but it's this: are we turning to him in that moment? Whether it's fun for him or not, I'm not going to try and answer that one.
Thank you, Citra Lila. Maybe we'll find out some on the road if Krishna is having fun. I think he is.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah. Okay, now comes the real question. Gail.
Hi, Krishna Mataji.
Anyway.
It's so interesting that I had the exact same question as Ananda Bihari Prabhu, but from a different angle, But I loved your answer just now, where you said that it's not when we trust Krishna, our concern should not be so much what the outcome of that trust is, because what Krishna is looking for is that we are trying to trust him, no? So regardless of the outcome, just the fact that we have that attitude, or we're approaching him in that mood, that will yield our advancement in this relationship, right? So it doesn't matter really so much what the outcome of making a particular decision out of trust is. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I think because maybe it's this modern society, we're very goal oriented and results, and we don't really look at like the intermediate steps of anything. We just see what has been achieved, what direction we've taken, what the decision. But actually, we may be missing a lot of the point in our spiritual life, because what Krishna is looking for is not particularly that we make this decision, that decision, or have this result, but he's doing all these things to develop this attitude in us, this attitude of trust, this attitude of putting it in his hands, putting ourselves in his hands, and developing this humility that I'm just trying to please you. Like this is the only aspiration I have, and I don't know. I'm not going to try. I can't work everything out, but yeah. So it's devotional service is about developing the proper attitude towards God, and so that's a very important part of actually our lives. It's not just the results and what project we decide to do, or what I don't know, where we decide to live or whatever, but it's how are we developing this internal attitude. So yeah, it's an important part to focus on as well, because he's looking at maybe that's what he's looking at more than anything.
So I love this answer, but now for my original question about taking the leap of faith, which is, it's not that we should leap into anything and hope that the net will be there, right? So how to simultaneously take a leap of faith and do so intelligently.
Yeah, when we say leap of faith, it sounds very like it's a huge thing, like it's a big a big jump, a big dramatic thing. I mean, when I was saying that, I'm kind of thinking about it's a movement of faith. It's a movement in the heart that doesn't necessarily have to be a big manifestation of like, I'm just gonna go to Finland and open a temple, leap of faith, you know, put everything in Krishna's hands. It doesn't have to be like that. I was thinking more of, for example, there's, you know, you're in a difficult situation and you naturally want to take shelter of some material thing or, oh, it's going to be darshan time soon. I'll try and finish quickly. But that we choose in that moment that I'm going to take shelter chanting and I'm going to give my sorrow maybe or whatever emotion it is that we're feeling in that difficult situation, but I'm going to invest this in my chanting. That is like a leap of faith in a sense. It's a small turn of faith that this is where I'm investing my faith. I'm going to chant more deeply and more attentively because of this situation. Yeah, because not just focusing on these big jumps. But any big decisions should be for the intelligence to be there. The intelligence is the spiritual master and his representatives. Okay, I think we have to stop there. The deities are eagerly waiting to reveal themselves to us. Thank you everybody very much for your attention and giving me this great opportunity to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Citra Lila David Dasi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jamuna Jaya David Dasi Ki Jai.
Dear Susie.
Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can obtain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. My vigilance is soil. May the scriptures sing his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy. Spread the war and the Lord of Oh, mercy, and this is the shade of your majesty. May rain be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet.
Temple Room Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Karuna Nimai Prabhu, you asked a very intelligent question. Would you like to ask it out loud? Karuna Nimai Prabhu.
Thank you for calling out, Prabhu, and facilitating the question. So my question was that how does one practically fall back on Krishna in daily life? And there are many situations, where we may need to surrender rather than control. So how do we recognize that that's the moment to actually surrender? Because there are certain moments, if we surrender, we lose the situation. How to know when to surrender and how to consciously let go, especially when we have this deep habit of clinging on, holding on to things.
Yeah, great question. That's an eternal question, Karuna Nimai Prabhu. I have this question all the time. Let's see what we have. Krishna Kumari, Bhima Prabhu, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, please offer your answers. Bhima Kaviraj, you're the first in line.
Don't be afraid to suffer.
What's that? I only heard suffer.
Don't be afraid.
Oh, don't be afraid to suffer.
Mm-hmm. Always choose something challenging. Understand that this is growth. And if you're hurting, then you're on the right path. If you're having a good old time and you feel like you could hang a while in a certain energy level or sacrificial level or devotional level, then you're in trouble. So if you always feel slightly under stress. It's just like Radhanath Maharaj is always fond of using progressive weight resistance. You can't grow unless the weight gets greater. You'll stagnate. So that's the same thing with the soul. When more pressure, more stress is put on it, more challenge, then it will grow. So you're constantly having to surrender. You're constantly, because you're constantly being tested. That's how you always fear, comfort, fear, complacency. Of all things, fear, complacency. Christ said, "You're either hot for me or you're cold for me." Right? If you're just an atheist, you just living your life. He doesn't. Krishna doesn't care. And if you're hot for him, well, we know what that's like. But if you're lukewarm, that is, Krishna consciousness is an adjunct to your life. God, Krishna is an adjunct. He's, you get, you do this, you do that, and then there's a little bit of devotional service, and everything's going just fine. So I've found that constantly putting myself in a position and accepting the position of being tested. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. So healthy pain of growth is one sign that tells us that we are surrendering properly. Thank you for that. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, Krishna Kumari, I want to hear from you also, please.
I'm more in the mood of receiving grace these days. I feel like I did use
Krishna Kumari, your
grace
sound is a
in
little
that
choppy.
realm that Bhima's talking about.
Krishna Kumari is receiving grace. That's a great mood to be in. Krishna Kumari, the sound was a little choppy. Yeah, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, Krishna Kumari would like you to speak. When do you break? When do you accelerate in bhakti?
Hare Krishna. I'm reading Sri Manashiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami, and it's talking about eradicating hypocrisy within our hearts, eradicating deceit, and it says we should bathe in the transcendental nectar of that is coming from Gandharvika Giridhari, their loving service. And if we bathe in the desire for personal adoration, that is, it is suffering, because it is like the burning hot urine of a donkey, and we don't want to bathe in that. So it talks about how these are obstacles, and the more we get rid of these obstacles, the more we can take shelter.
Thank you very much, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, for the very strong Shastric reference that you offered. If I may speak very briefly on this, one thing I learned on my path to Krishna is that it doesn't hurt to try. It doesn't hurt to try. When we give up without having tried, then it's defeat. But when we give up after having tried, there's nothing wrong with that. I hope this helps, Karunanimai Prabhu.
Yeah, that was a nice summary, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you, Bhima Prabhu.
Thank you. Great question, great answers. Okay. Can we have Isaiah, Annabelle, Sage, and Sky? Can we have their association, please? And Paw Patrol. Okay. Unmute, 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 unmute.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Very sweet. Everything becomes so clear after this chanting. All the questions are answered when you chant like that. Thank you very much. Isaiah, Annabelle, Sage, and Sky. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful day.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.